Department of Finance to speak to Minister Brian Lenihan. And I began by asking him if it took him and the other EU finance ministers far too long to fully understand the contagion that was happening right across the Eurozone.
I think there was a clear understanding, but this is the first major crisis the Euro has had to face. And there were deep-seated differences between Germany and France about how strategy around the Euro should be managed. And I think that was reflected in the delays which took place.
This historic deal was obviously designed to try and ensure the stability of the euro. But at first the markets rallied. Today shares have dropped again. Will it be durable?
I believe it will be durable. I don't believe there was a very substantial drop today. The key point last week was that the European system and the euro, which is our currency, came under massive speculative attack. In effect, traders, especially in North America, took bets on the entire currency arrangement collapsing. It was very important that Europe respond strongly and decisively. This Europe did last Sunday. It did first of all through the 750 billion package, in other words saying that that amount of money was either guaranteed or on the table to rescue any individual state that had borrowing needs or problems, and secondly through the central bank saying it would buy government bonds so that in effect it would take the speculators on head on and expose them on their bets.
But there's no such thing as a free lunch. So in return for countries like Germany, perhaps one day bailing out us, even if our deficit remains, we need to almost give up a lot of our economic sovereignty to them. They're going to demand things from us that in the past they couldn't demand because we'll owe them one.
Well, there were no demands made on Ireland last weekend because they believed that we were on the right course of action. Of course, there's a pooling of sovereignty in Europe. That has always been the case. But the argument is that that pooling of sovereignty is for the benefit of all. And in this case it is, because were we to have had a separate currency, for example, we would have much higher interest rates all the time. Were we to have a separate currency, our degree of protection from international speculation would be very, very limited. So there are real problems with having a separate independent currency if you're a small country. Clearly we have to attach ourselves to a larger bloc, and the European bloc is our major trading partner, and it is a country or a system within which our voice can be heard.
Like even yesterday, the IMF spokesperson said, and I quote, "This is a measure to momentarily calm the markets. The real medication and the real treatment is yet to come." And speaking to a former IMF economist today, they were saying to me that the IMF is going to eventually force on countries like us, one day, measures that could throw us deeper into recession because they will be incredibly tough measures they will be demanding from us.
And that's always a danger, I agree, and that's why it's very important in any fiscal correction to balance your reductions or your reductions in expenditure with the protection of your economy. And by and large, we've done that here. A lot of the criticism of our budgets in recent years was that we're promoting an economic decline. It now appears it has brought us out of the recession faster than expected. Now, who can predict what's going to happen in the future?
To try and make it accessible to people, Minister, I suppose we've seen cuts in A&E at the moment. For instance, Beaumont Hospital. We've seen home carers being cut. People are worried that if perhaps that deal yesterday could impact on them in a very, very bad way, that they would end up having more cuts forced on them in the upcoming budget than they'd even expected.
No, I mean, what yesterday was about was guaranteeing all the member states and ensuring that they continue to borrow to provide services where they do need borrowing. It's to protect the euro system and protect the sovereigns in it, and to say that the member states do not intend to default, that it is a stable currency and a strong currency. That's the message that went out yesterday, and by and large I think that message has been accepted on the markets. We are living in extraordinary times in financial matters. There's been a degree of instability in the world financial system now, right back to the beginning of 2008. But yesterday's moves by Europe mean that Europe is taking decisive action to show that Europe will play its full part in restoring financial stability. That is important, but it will require action by the member states to curb excessive expenditures. That is correct. And there's no getting away from the problem that many states in Europe have put their expenditure way ahead of their actual revenue base, and that's not sustainable.
But Minister, we're broke ourselves. Firstly, can we really afford to be giving Greece 1.3 billion?
Well, we're not broke. That's why the other European countries believe we can lend 1.3 billion to Greece. And of course, we'll borrow the money at a certain rate. We'll lend it to Greece at a higher rate, so we'll make a profit on that transaction.
I suppose you can see people watching at home tonight, Minister, saying, look, we can't afford home helps. How can we afford to promise €7 billion to our European colleagues?
Yeah, but every European country is doing this to save the currency itself. And it's important to understand that. These are financial transactions which are carried out on world markets. They don't involve taxpayers' money. They involve us borrowing money and lending it on. That's what's happening in the case of Greece, and in the case of Greece, lending it on at a profit. Likewise, in the case of the recent European announcement, we stand to deliver that sum of money were it required, in the event, in other words, that more European countries go to the wall. Likewise, of course, Germany has made similar commitments, so have France, and their commitments are far, far greater than ours.
Finally, Minister, you're probably doing one of the toughest jobs in the country. Do you feel well enough at this moment to carry out your duties to the best of your abilities?
Oh yes, absolutely. I saw some reference to my working a 3-day week recently. I had a 7-day week last week, and certainly I'm enjoying my work and giving it its full attention.
Minister, thank you very much. That was the Minister, Brian Ennis.